Hi, I'm Mahesh, and today I'm going to talk about how networks communicate. This talk is about demystifying networking, meant for professionals who are not from the networking background, software developers and engineers who want to learn more about networking. So let's get started on how networks work. So let me share my screen. So we are going to talk about network communication approaches today. Supposing I have two hosts, and host one has some set of information and I want to send that information to host two. The first question is, how do I communicate? How do I send this information across? Obviously, we are going to need some medium. So what are those medium options, right? I need some physical channel through which I can communicate from host one to host two. The obvious ones we use today are copper cables, and then we have modern day now we are using fiber optic and then air. Each of these medium uses, like copper uses energy in the form of electrical signals, fiber optics has light pulses, and in case of air we have radio waves. So with this medium, the physical layer, the communication happens. Now let's talk about how does it work in terms of different approaches for communication. So if you are familiar with the old telephony network, this is the approach which was used when the telephone network started. And over here, let's say we have one user uh, who is trying to talk to another user. So you have a user A who wants to talk to user B, and he wants to send a message. Now, how does he get started? So he dials a number. So user B's telephone number, let's say 1234. And what happens? The first thing is it is trying to establish the connection. So the telephone is connected to the local switching office, right? So we have a physical connection to the local switching office. From there, it searches, okay, where is this user with telephone number 1234? And then it eventually finds that particular number, and the ring goes, tring, tring. So user B here receives the phone and he picks the phone. And at that moment, the whole circuit is established, right? The connection is established end to end. Now, once this is done, if user A wants to send a message, right? So he's talking, right? He's communicating the data here. The data is actually going to flow from the user over this circuit, which is the connection, and going to reach the user B, right? So that is the communication flow that happens, and user B will receive the same message which was transmitted, right? So this is how the connection-oriented circuit switch network works. Now, what are the things here, right? The advantage here is once circuit is established, you don't need to worry about any call that is happening at other places. Let's say, for example, we have another user. Let's say we have a user C who is trying to communicate to user D, right? And similar thing happens. So user C is going to again have this communication connection happening in the beginning. So there is a connection handshake that happens between the user C and user D. And once the connection has happened, then similar to the previous case, we are going to have data which is going to send. Now it is going to send over a different connection, right? So this connection is different from what is between A and B and C and D. So the advantage here is we don't have any sort of congestion because I'm basically it's like a single tenant, if you can imagine, right? I'm reserving this channel for communication exclusively between A and B, or similarly between C and D. So once that has happened, you have a kind of no interference situation. But what are the disadvantages? Disadvantages is even if there is no data being sent, if the connection is open, you are charged for the data for the fee. So it's expensive. Second thing is establishing the initial connection itself takes time. With this limitation, when we look at the other option, which is the connection-less option or packet switch network, you will see the difference in the approach. So let's move to the next approach. Here, which is, as I said, it's a connection-less approach, unlike the previous case where we had a connection, this is different. What happens? Let's take another example. Again, we have a user A and user B. Now this time he can send voice, but let's assume a case where he's trying to send some kind of data, right? So let's look at user is trying to send a data here, which is some kind of a file. He has a nice report that he has written, and he wants to share this file from his PC to his friend who is over here. Now again, he has some sort of address. Let's assume it's the same 1 2 3 4. There is no connection here. So what happens? Essentially, in connection-less or packet-oriented, we just divide this whole big fat content into small packets, and each packet will have a source address and a destination address, right? So we have source and destination attached to each of the packet. Okay. Now, when the actual flow happens, the traffic again originates from here. There is no connection, so it goes and hits the intermediate devices, and we will talk about it later. And it hits the intermediate devices, and ultimately, this packet goes and reaches the destination here, right? So I have the first packet. Similarly, so this is done. Similarly, I have another packet, and it is possible. So I'm just taking a color, different color here. So this packet, it originates again from A, and it's likely that it is going to take another path here. Okay, and then it reaches to the ultimate destination B. So I have received the second packet and so forth, right? Now this is a packet switch network. What happens? Every packet has an independent path, as you can see. There is no connection over it. The main advantage here is if there is, for example, there is no transmission happening, then let's say if there is no transmission happening, there is no charge for it. Okay, so I am not going to pay anything for, let's say I'm not going to pay anything for empty time when there is no data transfer. I'm just not going to pay anything, right? So that's the advantage. The downside is it is possible that at some point of time, if there is a lot of data which is getting transferred, I might face congestion leading to packet loss and higher latencies, right? So these are basically the concepts about circuits or the connection-oriented and connection-less networks. So we saw the kind of fundamental approaches to networking, and hopefully this session was useful. And we would continue this series and look forward to sharing more information with you. Thank you.